as you probably figured out by now. Very little voice left. Getting over a cold these past days. I feel fine, I just can't talk. So it is Divine Mercy Sunday, and the Lord's mercy will be short homily today. As we look at the figure of Thomas is missing from that Easter Sunday gathering. So Jesus appears, the disciples see him. Thomas is not there. And we don't know why he's not there, but he's not. And Thomas, being absent, misses out on the defining moment of who those apostles are, who they are in Jesus. And there's something then that's troubling in Thomas's understanding of things. When the other disciples tell him about this, he's perturbed. And there's this lack of peace, as it were. Jesus came to announce peace to his disciples. Thomas didn't receive that. And so Thomas is unsettled. I will not believe. There's something not right here. And everything is kind of thrown up into chaos. And that's what happens in our own lives when we try to do things on our own. When we grow stubborn and close doors. When we sever relationships. When we make it all about us. Quite simply, when we sin. When we sin, we close out not only others, but also God. And in that closing out, we lose our own identity. We no longer are who we really are. We're someone else. Someone that's not quite as likable. Someone else who's not quite as lovable. Someone else who has been severed from God and with one another, and therefore a little less than who we were. And we see then how that cycle of sin then begins, because we know that, we feel that. And so we keep trying to satisfy ourselves. And we turn to so many things to bring satisfaction or happiness in our lives. And we just don't find that peace is not there. Peace only comes when we are in right relationship with God and with others. And so when Thomas returns and he's back, and Jesus appears to him, he goes through that process of healing. He goes through that process of reconciliation, of forgiveness for his own lack of belief, for his own cutting off those relationships. And as he goes through that process, he finds himself restored, and he finds that peace. And so the man whom centuries has called doubting Thomas becomes believing Thomas. Doubting Thomas is not who he is. That was his sinful self. Believing Thomas is who he is. You are my Lord and my God. And in uttering those words, he finds peace. And his relationship with Jesus is restored. And his relationship with others is restored. Peace is not just a feeling. Peace is a reality. It is the relationship restored between ourselves, between others, and God. In these 3 points, very Trinitarian, we find our peace, and we find who we are called to be. So as we celebrate this Divine Mercy Sunday, that is what we take with us. We examine our relationships with God, with one another, and then in doing that, we will find out who we really are. And if we're lacking that gift of peace, then maybe it calls us to restore some kind of relationship, to come back, to find forgiveness. And as God's mercy testifies, it is always there. In God's love and mercy, He will take us back, no matter how far we have strayed. Thomas becomes who he really was when he put himself in the presence of Christ. And ultimately, that's how we find our own identity. I am nobody unless I am in right relationship with God. I don't get to define that. I don't get to define what my to God. He defines that relationship. And so I have to come into that and be in his presence as Thomas was today. And in doing so, we find out who we really are. Not sinners, not disbelievers, but rather believers and ultimately saints. Not because of what we have done, but because of the mercy of God, who heals every wound and restores every